and then you can just note them down. Then we are going to be able to capture them or to answer them at the end of the session. So thank you so much and welcome.
Thank you very much, Caroline. Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me? I just want to confirm that I am audible. Maybe we can respond with a thumbs up in the room for those who are good. I can see Twahir. Thank you very much. All right, so I'll share my screen. Kindly. All right. We have a shared slide deck, which will enable us to have a seamless presentation. Okay. Caroline, please confirm if I can proceed with the presentation.
You can proceed, Barak.
All right. Just a moment. Just give me a minute to make a slight change on my machine, then I proceed.
Okay.
All right. Caroline, can I proceed?
Yes, Barak, you can proceed. And
Okay, thank you.
okay.
My apologies. I have a cold, but I'm sure we'll manage as we move along. So I'm going to share the stage with Engineer Galila, who will speak to the more practical aspects of the universal acceptance training. But before I start the presentation, I would like to highlight the fact that the internet has gone through various pivotal moments. Most of us are very familiar with the 70s, the invention of TCP/IP, the invention of UDP and the other protocols. And of course, we know men like Vint Cerf and Bob Kahn, who are credited for inventing some of the protocols that the internet relies on today. We also are aware of people like Steve Crocker, a recent former board chair of the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers, who is credited with invention of the RFC system, request for comment system, which is used for documenting the internet, for documenting everything on the internet. And then, of course, when it came to the early 1990s, specifically in 1992, we had Sir Tim Berners-Lee, credited with the invention of the web, or the World Wide Web for that matter. And later on in the 2000s, we see the growth and explosion of the internet going forward. So we are in a new state, or in a new era, other than what happened during the time of Tim Berners-Lee. We also had the introduction of new generic top-level domains on the internet in the 2000s, .net, .org, .com, and after 2010, we saw many more added to the root of the internet, creating a variety for global users of the internet to be added online. And last but not least, we are in another decade, and in this decade, we are thinking about not leaving anybody behind. And specifically, we are looking at universal acceptance of the internet, meaning that many other languages other than English um, are to be added to the internet to allow people in various communities to be able to communicate. Um, I would like to state that to the extent possible, I will try to contextualize this conversation. uh, One of the things that I will point out is that Sub-Saharan Africa and Kenya specifically, we are not, we cannot compare ourselves, for instance, to Egypt or to the Arab countries, which, for instance, have tried to which, for instance, have tried to domesticate their local languages. For instance, when Engineer Galila will be talking about Masr, you will be able to see that uh, they are using Arabic as their main medium of communication on the internet. And sometimes, while us, we are used to reading from left to right, them, they are probably reading from right to left. We'll also see a lot of developments in other scripts, like the Amharic script that is common in Ethiopia and in many other countries. More closer home, when it comes to the conversation of universal acceptance, we have seen attempts at incorporating Kiswahili into the internet. And right now, many of us that at times go onto the internet, especially using Bing or using some other web browsers, we find that we are able to utilize the Swahili language to be able to communicate. So this is what we'll be talking about in a nutshell, even as we talk about universal acceptance. Again, um, I want to commend the Internet Society Kenyan chapter, Dr. Rono, Caroline, uh, uh, Samuel from ZTech, for really holding fort in ensuring that each and every year we are able to have this conversation. And of course, the office bearers, Engineer Alphonse, and Howie, the Secretary General, and the rest that I may not mention. Slowly by slowly, we will get somewhere. I remember when we started having this conversation, probably 3 or 4 years back, the question then was, what value does universal acceptance add to us? But it is important for us to note that the internet is only important if it is localized, if it addresses local problems. Because remember, the internet is a network of networks, but it can only be relevant if there is useful content that can be shared broadly or across the international community. So those would be my opening remarks, even as I move into this presentation. Um, Again, this is an answer to the global challenge of digital inclusion, which remains a long-standing commitment. Statistics by GSMA show that only about 30% of our population here in Kenya, and by extension sub-Saharan Africa, is meaningfully connected to the internet. That means that there's about 70% that are unconnected. And they are unconnected for many reasons. It could be ranging from literacy issues, it could be power issues, it could be device related issues, but again, language issues, because not everyone speaks or communicates in English as their mother tongue or their first tongue. Many countries prefer to speak in their own languages. So, as we build the information society, we are faced with a new challenge. And as I have indicated, we are in a new decade, we are in a new millennium, and the challenge is to bring the unconnected online. So, we, the representatives of the people of the world, let me just read the Declaration of Principles at the Geneva Summit of 2003. We, the representatives of the people of the world, assembled for the first phase of the World Summit on the Information Society, declare common desire and commitment to build a people-centered, inclusive, development-oriented information society where everyone can create, access, utilize, and share information and knowledge, enabling individuals, communities, and peoples to achieve their full potential in promoting their sustainable development and improving their quality of life. So this is a declaration of principles at the Geneva Summit of 2003. Again, it's important to note that we are having a review of the World Summit on the Information Society this year to actually confirm whether the world has been able to attain the objectives that were set in 2003 and in 2005. Remember, the World Summit on Information Society meeting in 2005 in Tunis is the one that resulted in creation of the Global Internet Governance Forum, which will also be interrogated or reviewed for renewal this year. So we are actually at a key point when it comes to global internet public policy, and one critical addition is the universal acceptance conversation. Globally, language usage is diverse. English comes third in terms of native speakers around the world, after Chinese and Spanish. English represents 52% of the total content online, but the percentage is decreasing. as more and more people come online. So when it comes to the issue of language and speakers, as you can see on the presentation, of course, Chinese account for about 1.3 billion speakers. And majority of us in Kenya, we know that, of course, now the Chinese are part and parcel of our societal fabric. We use a lot of Chinese things, and they work with us on infrastructure projects and other things. We have Spanish as well, that comes second. Then we have English, then Arabic, then Hindi, then Portuguese, then Bengali and Russian. So we can see that the internet relies on the third uh, most popular medium of communication globally, yet it is a tool that can benefit the entire globe, over 4 billion people globally. So this is why this conversation of universal acceptance is critical, because without universal acceptance, we will deny many people who are not native English speakers an opportunity to be able to participate meaningfully or actively on the internet. Specifically, when we think about the African continent, of course, we now have Swahili in a way on the internet, but we still have many of our other localized languages, the Luo, Luya, Kikuyu, Kisi, which I am sure many people would actually prefer to communicate or use their own languages, but they lack that opportunity to be able to do that. Again, multilingualism is a critical key to digital inclusion. A linguistically diverse internet significantly contributes towards a knowledge-based society by bridging the digital divide. A key principle in the WISI's Geneva Declaration in 2003, leading to a commitment towards multilingualization of the internet in the WISI's Tunis agenda in 2005. It was to advance the introduction of multilingualism in domain names and email addresses by implementing programs and strengthening cooperation for their global deployment. UNESCO, in its recommendation on multilingualism and universal access to cyberspace in 2003, asked to alleviate language barriers on the internet by access to content, capacity building, national policies, and collaborative research and development on and local adaptation of technology with extensive multilingual capabilities. More recently, the Global Digital Compact asks to make digital technologies more accessible and affordable to everyone, including in diverse languages and formats. So the key point is multilingualism is a key to digital inclusion. Again, if I may step back a bit and just point out that um, there are two critical components on the internet. Or rather, we refer to them as resources. We have the naming side and we have the numbering side. Of course, we all know, for those who are students of computer science or information systems, that for any device to be connected to the internet, it requires a number. But we all know that as human beings, we can only remember so many characters or so many numbers, but it is easier for us to remember a name. So that is why the naming system or the domain name system was developed to make sure that it is easier for us as human beings to be able to remember some of the names on the internet. For instance, if I want information on the Internet Society Kenyan chapter, I will go to isoc.or.ke. If I want information on the government of Kenya, let's say State House, I will go to statehouse.go.ke. It is easier for me to remember State House than to remember an IP address like 192.168.0.1. You can imagine most of us who deal with hundreds of organizations, how challenging it is for us to remember the IP addresses. And that's the benefit of the domain name. So over time, we have seen the development of, number one, the Internet Protocol Addressing System, the Transmission Control Protocol, or TCP/IP, the OSI model, that basically determined how infrastructure is able to communicate. Then we saw the invention or the advent of the domain name system, otherwise referred to as the phone book of the internet, that would enable us to remember resources on the internet more easily. This was championed by men like John Postel, and we saw the advent of the World Wide Web. We In the World Wide Web, we saw things like the hypertext transfer protocol, the hypertext markup language that enabled us to link documents on different servers or different repositories across the world to create the beneficial internet that we have today. And now we are talking about uh, increasing the diversity of languages in which the internet can actually be used. And that is why we are having this conversation on universal acceptance. And that is why you can see entities like UNESCO being mentioned in this particular conversation. More recently, the Global Digital Compact asks to make digital technologies more accessible and affordable to everyone, including in diverse languages and formats. So let's look at the domain name system and ICANN. As I have mentioned in my opening remarks, a domain name is a unique name that forms the basis of the uniform resource locators that people use to find resources on the internet. So uniform resource locators are typically the web addresses www.isoc.or.ke. But we also have other critical resources on the internet, such as email servers, image repositories, and videos. Right now, many people like TikTok because people can record random videos, skits, and things like that, and it's a source of entertainment. The domain name itself identifies a specific address on the internet that belongs to an entity such as a company, organization, institution, or individual. Every internet connected device has a unique IP address. For example, the domain name ican.org has the IP address 192.0.43.7. I had talked about this initially. Collectively, the domain names and the Internet Protocol addresses help us to navigate the Internet. The Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers helps to coordinate and support these unique identifiers across the world. ICANN's mission is to help ensure a stable, secure, and a global Internet. So ICANN is one of the critical organizations in the Internet governance ecosystem whose core mandate is to coordinate and support the unique identifiers of the internet. And of course, ICANN was established in 1998. The Internet Society, which was earlier on introduced by Dr. Rono, was established in 1992 to continue building communities of practice that would enable the internet to grow to the next level where it needs to be. In the past, top-level domains have mostly been 2 or 3 letters long formed with Latin characters. For example, .com and .org. The evolution of the DNS has allowed for newer and longer top-level domains. There are now around 1,200 new generic top-level domains that represent brands, communities, and geography. For instance, .photography, .london. In Africa, we have .joburg, we have .durban, and we have .cape town. These new top-level domains also include internationalized domain names, which allow for domain names in local languages and scripts, such as the Chinese and Arabic scripts. Other labels within a domain name can also be internationalized, allowing for a domain name to be in the local language and script completely. So internationalized domain names are separate from online content, which can also be multilingual. The next round of generic top-level domains, which has already started, will continue to expand the domain name system and give new opportunities to the next billion people waiting for access to a more multilingual and inclusive internet in their language or script. So the key point that I would like us to take home or emphasize is the focus is on bringing new, on bringing more languages onto the internet. If I may use an example of the growth of the religious movements in Africa and in Kenya specifically, we note that in as much as majority of the, I'll use the example of missionaries, came speaking either English, Portuguese, Spanish, or other languages, there was need for some of the teachings to actually be translated into localized languages to enable more people to be onboarded. So the internet has reached that level where, uh, in terms of infrastructure, we've built the infrastructure has evolved to a level where it can accommodate billions of people. We now have IP version 6, which can accommodate billions of people. But we are finding that one of the main constraints that is limiting people from coming online is the issue of language, and that's what we are trying to address. I don't know if there's any question up to that point. I would like to just pause for a moment for any question or comment in the room before we proceed. Thank you, Engineer. Any question from the room, Caroline, or comment?
Yes, I think, Barak, we do not have a comment now.
I can proceed.
Yes, Barak, you can proceed. I think we don't have a question.
Thank you. All right. So let's look at expansion of the domain name system and the next round. So the introduction of new GTLDs. Sorry?
I have a question.
Yes, please, go ahead.
I'm just curious about the list that I saw of, oh, sorry, my name is Rene Ngige from ZTech.
Yes, Rene.
I'm just curious about the list I saw of the most dominant languages in the internet, which started with Chinese and then Spanish and then English. So what exactly is it based on? Like, what exactly is it based on in relation to internet? Yeah, this one.
Okay.
Language usage. Is it just language usage, like generally, or does it have a relation with the internet world?
Okay. Thank you, Rene. To answer your question, number one, we first appreciate the fact that, okay, I will answer and then Engineer Galila will also respond. We have to appreciate the fact that the internet is infrastructure. We have the hardware and we have the software, but the infrastructure is made up of numerous repositories. If I may use the example of a post office, the size we this the or that's not the right that's not the right word. Yeah, so the internet is basically made up of infrastructure. So we have the hardware and we have the software side of it. Now, the hardware determines the capacity or the amount of content that the infrastructure can be able to hold. So we have had efforts on improving hardware. Currently, we are in the AI generation, and we are talking about supercomputing, or we are talking about crazy amounts of computing. And this is because the amount of data that is coming online is increasing. Now, when you look at the economics of the internet, for it to be sustained, it requires a numbers game. Currently, we have about 360 million domain names that are registered across all top level domains globally. Africa alone accounts for a paltry 1% or 2%. In fact, in Africa, we are net consumers of the internet. We have over 500 million internet users, and majority of these are social media users. So in terms of meaningful contribution or meaningful use of the internet, we are not doing much. Now, just like politics, and I think if you look at geopolitics, you will see that currently there is a fight between global superpowers. Uh, Recently, one of the most popular apps was almost taken over. Uh, it was a source of a fight between two global superpowers. Most of you know what was happening to TikTok in the US and its background. But when you think about it, um, the number of internet users in a particular region can actually contribute to growth of the technology in that particular region. So when you look at the issue of numbers, for instance, whereas the internet is credited with having been developed or its origins having come out of the US, which is a multicultural and multilingual state, we are seeing countries like China, which are taking up a crucial lead because of the sheer numbers that they have and because of the fact that they have actually been able to domesticate or localize the internet, which is making it a force to reckon. If you look at the market, for instance, you will see that majority of us are using a lot of Chinese apps, a lot of Chinese devices, and increasingly, China is preferring us to utilize them in their own language. That is why the issue of language is critical, because it will form the next frontier of the haves and the have-nots. And that is why the universal acceptance conversation is critical. But having said that, let me give Engineer Galila the floor to also respond, and then we can proceed. Abdalmonem?
Yes, thank you, Barak, for highlighting this. Actually, from time to time, maybe from day to day, there are a new languages discovered by UNESCO and other multilingual organizations. There are another arm that affects the increased number of non-English people that exists to learn at the moment or even for the future number of non-English users, which is the content. Before maybe 20 years ago, there are 75% English language content exists online versus 25% non-English language exists online. Currently, we have 50% non-English, 50% English. And there is an expectation by WCDC that in the future it will be 75% non-English against 25% English. Content, the diversity of content that already exists online and will exist online makes the number of non-English users start propagating. This is the first point. Second point, that after COVID-19, all the governments worldwide for all countries are went carefully for the digital transformation project. So all the governmental services or even business services are now being promoted to be online identity. So if you want to buy something or have one of the governmental services, you have to go online. How could you go online at the time you couldn't write English or even speak English? How could you go online even with your own local language? For example, it is Arabic and have content in English. This is inconsistency. The third point that one of the case studies that being done before that for Amazon, uh, the, 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 the origin interface, the GUI, was only English only. The time they added another languages, the marketing increased by, the business increased by 100%. So now Amazon have a diverse number of languages. It's somehow kind of business. And now we are not talking today about universal acceptance, not only for internationalized domain names, IDA, domain names in local languages, or email address internationalization, email addresses in local language, but also for the new generic top level domain name that mostly of them are English language based top level domain names. Thank you, Barak, for highlighting this.
Thank you very much. Renee, is that helpful?
Yes, thank you.
Welcome. I thought I've seen another hand in the room. Okay, seems everything is resolved. Yeah, so the conversation is about bringing more local languages online. Okay, let's look at the expansion of the domain name system and the next round. So the introduction of new generic top-level domains, including long top-level domains and internationalized domain names to the internet ecosystem through the new GTLD program enabled the largest expansion of the domain name system. So before 2009, we had 22 generic top-level domains. And of course, when we say generic, we mean general purpose, because we have the generic domains such as .com, .org, .edu, .net, .aero, and we have the country code top-level domains, which are two-letter codes ascribed by the International Standards Organization through the ISO 3166 standard. And of course, they are only issued to countries that are recognized by the United Nations. So country codes could be like .ke for Kenya, .uk, .de, .jp, and .fr. Those are two character ASCII country code top-level domains. So the difference between generic top-level domains and country code top-level domains is that the generic top-level domains are under the oversight of ICANN. ICANN contracts parties to manage the various generic top-level domain registries on their behalf. For instance, .org is managed by the Public Interest Registry for and on behalf of the Internet Society, and it's a great source of the income that is used to facilitate the work that many of the Internet Society chapters normally do. Then we have internationalized domain CCTLDs in Latin characters. We have, for instance, the um, uh, uh, some of them, the Polish ones, the Russian ones, and we also have .masr, which engineer Abdalmonem will talk about. From 2012 and even at the moment, we had new generic top-level domains. For instance, .bank, .globe, .london, .photography, and we had very many internationalized domain generic top-level domains. In terms of internationalized domain names, I'll touch on this, but engineer again will revisit the conversation. There are a total of 61 internationalized domain name country code top-level domains delegated to 42 countries and territories, and .masr is one of them. We are going to have a demo on how .masr operates later on. In terms of the internationalized domain, generic top-level domains that have been delegated, when we say delegation, it is the addition of a domain extension to the root of the internet. There's a process that does that. If you want to see the domains that have been delegated, you can visit the Public Technical Identifiers website, or you can go to iana.org, iana.org, and you will be able to see some of the critical resources that have actually been delegated on the internet. Let's look at evolution of email addresses. It is worth noting that email remains one of the most popular tools on the internet, even with the advent of various applications like TikTok and the rest. So initially, email addresses were also not available in local languages and scripts. Email address internationalization addresses this limitation and allows for having email addresses in local languages and scripts. Internationalized email addresses are not related to the text in the body of the email. So the text in the body is different from the email, because remember, at infrastructure level, there is resolution that takes place. These are some examples of internationalized domain names. We have Armenian, we have Oriya, we have Georgian, we have Korean, we have Arabic, just to name but a few. These are examples of internationalized email. Again, Armenian, Chinese, Arabic, Greek, and Tamil. All right, so this is the challenge. And I think at this point, I would want to just invite I would like to invite my co-speaker, Engineer Galila, just to speak a bit or give a bit of a background on the internationalized email, and especially how it works in the background when it comes to a resolution. And then we will move to the challenge. Engineer, if you are able to just step in.
Yes, thank you very much, Bharat. Actually, before it was a challenge in order to have to set up an environment that hosts email address internationalization mailboxes. But currently, after the UASG, Universal Accepted Steering Group, which is an initiative supported by ICANN in order to foster the use of internationalized domain names and the email address internationalization, and also the new generic top-level domain names usage for all languages or whatever the length of the domain name itself. Actually, for email address internationalization, now there are different modules in order to set up an environment for email address internationalization. We have MUA, Mail User Agent, which is the email client you are using. Maybe it is a web application. Maybe it's a desktop application like Outlook, like any other interface you are using around the Cube, Thunderbird, something like that. And this email client, which is MUA, need to connect to the email server. So, for example, let me have a real example. Me, for example, have an email address asarwat@tra.gov.eg. This email address has three parts. The first part for English language, for Ask Languages, is the mailbox asarwat, and then at the second part, and then the third part, which is the domain name. Me, I wanted to open an application. Maybe it's a web application, maybe it's Outlook, maybe it's RoundCube, and wanted to send an email. I add this email, for example, at the to field. I want to send an email to sarwat@tra.gov.eg. Once I wrote the message and the subject, I click compose or send. Once I click the send at this email client or MUA, this message itself will go to the mail server that I am attached to. For example, I am sarwat@tra.gov.eg. So my mail server will be responsible for any domain name that is related to tra.gov.eg. So this mail server need to check if this email address I want to send the message to is already existed or not. So the mail server will make some processing in order to check the DNS. What is the MX record? What is the mail server for tra.gov.eg? This is in case I want to send an email to myself, for example. So the DNS will reply again that the mail server for tra.gov.eg is mail.tra.gov.eg, and this is the IP address. At this time, my email server, which is considered from the mail environment, is MTA, Mail Transmission Agent, will receive this response from DNS and try to send an email to the destination, whatever it is, tra.gov.eg or whatever its domain name. And the other server will collect this message and deliver the message at the destination, at the recipient. This recipient was called as MUA also, whatever web or desktop, but the server that receives this message is called MDA, Mail Delivery Agent. So we have different components here that should be EI ready, should be universal acceptance ready. MUA, Mail User Agent, that is related to the user. MTA, Mail Transmission Agent, which is related to the mail server who is responsible for transmitting the message from source to destination. And MDA, the mail delivery agent, is MTA and delivers the message to the mail user agent at the destination. So all these parts, MUA, MTA, MDA, should be universally accepted, should be able to process EI email addresses correctly. That is why if you want to check if your email server EI ready or not, you could go for uasg.tech and go to EI check and write your email address here and click check. So if your email server is EI ready, it will respond that your email server is EI ready. If not, we will guide you to the next step in order to make your email server to be EI ready. That's in conclusion how email address internationalization works. Actually, the challenge is here. The challenge was before that. The challenges were before that. The modules that used for MUA, the user, and MTA, the server, mail server transmission, and MDA, these APIs or this module itself not EI ready. So you need, so UAG make a conduct or make a channel and make a dialogue with these vendors for this module in order to adopt universal acceptance readiness for these modules. And now we have, for example, Outlook, Microsoft Outlook since 2016, and Microsoft Exchange since 2016 is EI ready with zero profit for Microsoft. And for example, we have Gmail, but Gmail could send it to EI address, send it to Arabic address, receive from Arabic address correctly, but couldn't host the mailbox itself that could be a Unicode. These are different categories. We need in the future to eliminate the word that is EI address and ASCII address. Both of them are email addresses. We need for the future that if I have Arabic email address and you have English email addresses, both of them email addresses. I don't want to need to say that it's EI address. It is not an English address. That is one of the checker. Other challenges that for email address internationalization that, for example, one of the organizations that I am stable now, why I need to adopt email address internationalization at my environment? I am stable. Why I need to invest more money for this? Actually, if you are willing to adopt email address internationalization, you need to change different things. You need to adopt your firewall in order to accept such, to pass such a kind of email addresses. You need to adopt EI readiness or universal acceptance readiness at your anti-spam engine. So maybe your anti-spam engine is not adopted for a universal acceptance. So if they receive an email address from Arabic email address, it will be blocked and will not be delivered. This is one of the challenges. Now we have different modules, different APIs that are universal acceptance ready and could be used for mail engine. That's why we are here for today with my colleague Barak and UAG and ICANN to encourage all the stakeholders that are working for this continent to say that it's one world, one internet. We need to eliminate the word English email addresses or the word email, it's Arabic email addresses. All of them are Arabic, all of them email addresses. We need to eliminate the word internationalized domain names. We need to have it is domain name, whatever the language is. Of course, I am talking about IDNs or AI, and also I am considering the new generic top-level domain names. Currently, if you are trying to have email server that have, for example, asarwat at example.pharmacy, you will have an issue here that your email, this is not a correct email, correct domain name for email addresses. This is one of the challenges. As the developer who makes this application who hosts email server is not aware enough or need to be aware, need to know to be aware enough about that there is a new trend of generic top-level domain names that are more than 3 letters. They need to contact the developers who make this application in order to make the validation from the root zone that this domain name is already valid, top-level domain is already valid and not restricted for that. If you are going to social media, for example, Facebook, Twitter, and or for even TikTok, and add the Arabic email address, you're not able to sign up to this application. This is one of the challenges. This is at the time that the number of non-English users increased online. This is one of the barriers that prevents this number of people to be existed online. Recently, one of the IGF forums that was in Ethiopia, in Addis Ababa, I don't think, I couldn't remember which year, one of the participants stand up and say, we took 50 years in order to have 50% of the population to be existed online. Do we need to wait another 50 years in order to have the remaining 50% to exist online? Actually, one of the barriers that affect these 50 users to become online is the languages. And also you have to consider something, another something. I couldn't write English. I couldn't speak English. Now, if you have your iPhone, you have Siri. If you have Android, you have some voice recognition. If I need to say that I wanna go to google.com in Arabic, this application, Siri or other voice recognition, should be universal acceptance ready as well in order to accept my language, in order to be translated to English and go to the right or the proper location exists online. Actually, I will cover more than this, but I don't want to exhaust the floor from my colleague Barak to start. Thank you, Barak. Go ahead, please.
Barak, are you there? And we have a question on the chat from Benson Moite.
Yeah, could I jump in to answer this question? Are you there?
Barak, are you there? As we wait for Barak, in case we have anybody with a question, you can put it on the.
Samuel, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you well.
Yes, let me answer the question that already here at the chat. The question is, what is the status of IDN support in fast email MTAs? Actually, at my slides, you will have the list of MTAs and MUAs and MDAs that currently support email address internationalization. So stay tuned for the other slides. You will find your answer there. But actually, we are propagating for the increased number of MTAs or MUAs or MDAs that support EAIs. Actually, as most of these tools or the software module depends on specific APIs. And the new APIs, for example, from mail, for the API that are related to mail from mail version 4.3.10, it support email address internationalization. So you could host your EI mailbox for EI domain name, for IDN domain name. I hope I addressed your question.
Thank you. Anybody else with a question? I'll wait for Barak.
Okay, so we are going to take a short break, and then we are going to take a break of about 20 minutes, and then we are going to continue after that.
Okay. So we will take a break for maybe Caro and Dr. Ronald, so you can advise for how long can we go for a break. Caro, maybe you can inform us.
20 minutes.
Okay, so we'll have a break for 20 minutes for all of us. And maybe for those of us who are here physically, I would like to give you directions on where you will take your breakfast. We will go to our cafeteria. Our cafeteria is at first floor. We will use this direction. And I know those of us who are from ZTech, we will guide those who are visitors so that we can be able to go to cafeteria. For those of us who are joining online, you can grab a cup of coffee where you are, and you will be. We will be back. We'll be back exactly at right now. It's 11:10. We will start the next session at 11:30. So meanwhile, We'll be playing a video online for those of us who are joining online so that we can remain engaged. Do not disconnect. Kindly remain with us. We will be back shortly. We are taking a small break and then we come for the next session. If we don't have a question, maybe on the chat, I don't think we have any other question. We will just break for now. We wish you well and we hope to see you back at 11:30. Thank you.
stored, and displayed equally, consistently, and correctly. When you hello, I am Anil Kumar Jain, Chair of the Universal Acceptance Steering Group. I am very happy to welcome all you to this UA Day event. The UASG is a volunteer-based focused on raising awareness of the importance of universal acceptance in collaboration and with support from ICANN. We also provide resources to help organizations adopt UA, including technical documentation, how-to guides, UA-ready code samples, and much more. From a technical standpoint, UA ensure that all valid domain names and email addresses in any language or script are accepted, validated, processed, stored, and displayed equally, consistently, and correctly. When you adopt UA by updating legacy systems and ensuring every new system is built to accept all domain names and email addresses, You are supporting all current users as well as making the internet more accessible and inclusive for the next billion who come online. This works takes all of us. I want to thank the USG ambassadors, local initiatives, and many USG contribution toward a UA ready world. And those of you who have helped make UA Day a reality.
When we talk about a package that protects food, we also have to talk about what happens after it's been used. Where collection, sorting, and recycling infrastructures exist at scale, used beverage cans can be recycled into new products, like warehouse pallets, delivery boxes, shopping bags, and more. This is already happening at over 200 facilities around the world, and it is becoming even more widespread as we invest in new collaborations. Go with Carg, the pack that protects.
ISOC budget report. Tell me what questions we should expect on our call.
Odds 12,000. So take their place in the Champions Cup semi.
Let me stop sharing this first. Yeah, what's up?
Of universal acceptance theory. Universal acceptance, or UA, ensures that all domain names and email addresses are accepted and processed directly by the internet applications and systems. It's about making sure that every domain name and email address, regardless of its script or length, is recognized and fully functional across all digital platforms and services. To me, universal acceptance means inclusivity and accessibility in the digital space. It's about breaking down barriers and enabling users from diverse linguistic and cultural backgrounds to fully participate in the online world without facing technical obstacles. UA has many benefits. It enables users from around the world to access online services and communicate effectively in their native language. It facilitates economic growth and innovation by removing technical barriers that hinder the adoption of new TLDs and domain names in non-Latin scripts. It improves the user experience by reducing instances of email and website rejections or error messages due to UA-related issues. And it strengthens the resilience and stability of the internet by promoting interoperability and compatibility among different systems and platforms. The Rajasthan government initiative to provide a free email address to all citizens, known as Rajmail, is a great example of UA. By offering email address on an IDN, Rajasthan.Bharat, the government is ensuring that all citizens, regardless of their linguistic and cultural backgrounds, can utilize and access digital services effectively. The Rajmail initiative serves as a successful case study of universal acceptance implementation at the regional level. demonstrating how government can leverage UI principles to enhance digital accessibility and inclusivity. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Satish, and I live in
Universal acceptance, or UA, is the best practice, ensuring that all valid domain names and email addresses, regardless of script, language, or length, are accepted by all applications. Unfortunately, not every system is currently set up to handle this diversity yet. This example shows the difference between a website that is UA ready and one that is not. In both cases, the objective is for the user to register themselves using a form, but when attempting to use an internationalized email address, results are quite different. Acceptance, or UA, is the best practice, ensuring that all valid domain names and email addresses, regardless of script, language, or length, are accepted by all applications. Unfortunately, not every system is currently set up to handle this diversity yet. This example shows the difference between a website that is UA ready and one that is not. In both cases, the objective is for the user to register themselves using a form, but when attempting to use an internationalized email address, results are quite different. IDNs are part of global technical standards and should be supported in the same way as any other email address. Such limitations emerge from the various components of software, like programming languages, libraries, databases, and utilities. The medium to which user interaction occurs also matters, such as browsers and email clients. This means there is a need to test, configure, and potentially adapt these different components in order to become compliant with universal acceptance principles. These different components are abstracted into 5 verbs, which are accept, validate, process, store, and display. These elements normally work in succession, making them into a chain of sorts. If one step fails, the next one will likely fail as well. This is why creating universal acceptance requires the revision of different parts of the system, seeing as it might be the case that a single component is at fault, and the fix might be simpler than it is imagined. Of course, this is different in each case. Let us study each verb individually now. Many applications have input fields that the user is asked to complete. Generally, more attention is paid to accepting all characters in a person's name, although at times, users are still asked to write a transliteration of their name or omit diacritics. For email addresses, developers need to ensure that the input field accepts all valid characters, including those in Unicode. Universal acceptance, or UA, is a best practice, ensuring that all valid domain names and email addresses, regardless of script, language, or length, are accepted by all applications. Unfortunately, not every system is currently set up to handle this diversity yet. This example shows the difference between a website that is UA ready and one that is not. In both cases, the objective is for the user to register themselves using a form, but when attempting to use an internationalized email address, results are quite different. IDNs are part of global technical standards and should be supported in the same way as any other email address. Such limitations emerge from the various components of software, like programming languages, libraries, databases, and utilities. The medium through which user interaction occurs also matters, such as browsers and email clients. This means there is a need to test, configure, and potentially adapt these different components in order to become compliant with universal acceptance principles. These different components are abstracted into 5 verbs, which are accept, validate, process, store, and display. These elements normally work in succession, making them into a chain of sorts. If one step fails, the next one will likely fail as well. This is why creating universal acceptance requires the revision of different parts of the system, seeing as it might be the case that a single component is at fault, and the fix might be simpler than it is imagined. Of course, this is different in each case. Let us study each verb individually now. Many way is the best practice, ensuring that all valid domain names and email addresses, regardless of script, language, or length, are accepted by all applications. Unfortunately, not every system is currently set up to handle this diversity yet. This example shows the difference between a website that is UA ready and one that is not. In both cases, the objective is for the user to register themselves using a form, but when attempting to use an internationalized email address, results are quite different. IDNs are part of global technical standards and should be supported in the same way as any other email address. Such limitations emerge from the various components of software, like programming languages, libraries, databases, and utilities. The medium through which user interaction occurs also matters, such as browsers and email clients. This means there is a need to test, configure, and potentially adapt these different components in order to become compliant with universal acceptance principles. These different components are abstracted into 5 verbs, which are accept, validate, process, store, and display. These elements normally work in succession, making them into a chain of sorts. If one step fails, the next one will likely fail as well. This is why creating universal acceptance requires the revision of different parts of the system, seeing as it might be the case that a single component is at fault, and the fix might be simpler than it is imagined. Of course, this is different in each case. Let us study each verb individually now. Many applications have input fields that the user is asked to complete. Generally, more attention is paid to accepting all characters in a person's name, although at times, users are still asked to write a transliteration of their name or omit diacritics. For email addresses, developers need to ensure that the input field accepts all valid characters, including those in Unicode. Successful acceptance of all characters normally involves enabling UTF-8 input in the programming language or framework being used, and ensuring that the environment is configured to expect that input. Java Swing and other current GUI solutions inherently support UTF-8 input, potentially making the step simpler. If accepting input is important, then validation is essential, as it flags a given email address as valid and usable. Our studies show that many coders and libraries still use regular expressions to perform validation, which makes UA difficult to achieve, given that an ASCII-based logic is usually employed in such cases, which only includes Latin letters A to Z and numbers 0 to 9. There are, however, a series of compliant libraries that make this implementation much easier, such as ISOC for comprehensive Unicode support in Java and C, C++, and IDNA for handling internationalized domain names in Python and Rust. These libraries also assist in supporting longer top-level domains that exceed the maximum of 4 characters that used to be expected in the past. Proper input processing maintains the integrity of user data, ensuring its consistency. One of the key aspects of this step is data normalization, which involves transforming Unicode data into its canonical form. Here, we see an example of both the precomposed and decomposed forms of a character. In precomposed form, all constituent parts are understood as a single character, while in decomposed form, the character is understood as a sequence of its constituent parts. Successful processing also involves testing the decoding of data after it has been stored, making sure that the characters are being correctly interpreted and are output as they were intended. A tool that assists these various tasks is the previously mentioned ISOC, which includes various functions for Unicode normalization and other text processing tasks. For Python, Unicode data performs a similar job. For our purposes, databases need to be set up to support UTF-8 encoding, which can be achieved both in SQL and NoSQL. Proper configuration ensures accurate storage of characters, preserving information integrity. In MySQL, character sets and collation need to be configured manually, while NoSQL solutions like MongoDB often already natively support UTF-8. Usage of normalization form C is preferred, meaning storing characters in their precomposed forms whenever possible. It is also important to maintain consistency within the database, choosing to either store addresses as A labels or U labels, but not mixing both. In essence, an A label is the ASCII representation of an address in Unicode, prefixed by XN --. Additionally, configuring indexes and full text search features to account for UTF-8 can significantly improve performance and accuracy when querying this data. Displaying internationalized data correctly involves considering a few aspects. First, fonts used by the application should support a wide range of characters, and employing font fallback mechanisms can be a useful safeguard. Another key consideration is the display of characters in right to left (RTL) orientation, which is required for Semitic languages, with the application dynamically adjusting text direction based on necessity. This calls for the implementation or revision of responsive design techniques, adapting the UI to handle different scripts and languages, ensuring that the desired spacing and layout is maintained in all scenarios. Developers do not need to start from scratch to achieve universal acceptance, as the Icon GitHub repository hosts a set of minimal viable products and best practices to help on this matter, which can be found within the UA code samples folder of the repository. These resources are free and available in multiple programming languages, namely Java, JavaScript, Kotlin, PHP, Python, and Swift. The code samples can serve both as bases and as examples, and their usage is open to any interested projects. UA implementation can also be divided into phases in order to make it more manageable. This is what ICANN itself did, as detailed in the case study published by the Universal Acceptance Steering Group on UASG.tech. The first step is to ensure that newer ASCII-based TLDs work, such as those using more than 4 characters. Next, integration should focus on supporting internationalized domain names, which is well documented and widely supported. The final step is to ensure that email address internationalization is fully integrated, which requires heavier lifting, but also builds upon the previous phase. This makes it so that achieving UA readiness can be a project that generates smaller deliverables and in which progress is measurable. Enhance your competitive edge and contribute to a multilingual, interoperable internet. Join leading companies in this movement and open your services to the next billion users. The time to act is now.
Hello, everyone. We are resuming right now, shortly. So kindly be patient for 1 or 2 minutes. The next speaker will be taking over the next few minutes. I think can see the next speaker is almost ready. So just give us 1 or 2 minutes here. People are resuming here physically. But I think we can resume. Garida, I think you are the one sharing. Can you confirm? Can see you are sharing.
Yes, I could share that.
Okay, I think you can take over.
Yeah, thank you very much, Samuel. It's my pleasure. Yeah, let me know to introduce myself first. I am Abdelmanem Galila. I am based in Egypt. I am working for the Telecom Regulator of Egypt as the numbering affairs director, and responsible for operating the IDN CCTLD of Egypt. And also I have many positions within ICANN. I am the vice chair of Email Address Internationalization Work Group within UASG, and also the chair of CCNSO Universal Acceptance Committee, and one of the co-chairs of the Middle East Space. And it's my pleasure to be one of the speakers today with my colleague Barak, who is an expert for the African continent. I am African, by the way, and it's my pleasure to share the ideas related to universal acceptance and how to make your application to make your website universal acceptance ready, and how to make your email server to be universal acceptance ready. But actually, I used it to start my slides by some kind of quizzes. As you know that it is you just back from your breakfast and you feel somehow lazy a little bit. So I want to refresh your minds in order to be tuned all the time with what I am saying. So let us start the first quiz here. I hope you could see my screen well. Could anyone confirm, please? Yes, thank you very much. The first quiz.
Can see your screen.
Thank you very much. The first quiz for today: how many unique email addresses are there? ke.nya@gmail.com, Kenya as one word at gmail.com, Kenya at separate letters with somehow K and A are capital at gmail.com, Kenya@yahoo.com, Kenya@yahoo.rw. How many unique email addresses are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, or none? 0. I am waiting. You could raise your hand and start talking. Actually, I don't like to have a dummy session. We need it to be more interactive. We need to deliver a message that will be exist in your mind after we finish the UA day. So how many unique email addresses are there? Don't be shy. I am waiting. Who would like to have the floor first to answer this question? Or even think in a loud voice?
So we also have those who are joining us here physically. I will be coordinating for those who are here physically.
Yeah. So how many email addresses here?
So I'll be responding on behalf of yes, how many? Okay.
I saw here 2 email addresses. So could Kate open the mic and say why 2 email addresses are here? Anyone? Any idea how many email addresses are here? Away from 2, maybe 3, maybe 4, maybe 0, 4. Why 4, Francis? You could open the floor and speak. 3. Anyone? Shadrach, Francis, Kate, open the mic and speak and say why 2, why 3, why 4. 1 second left. Yeah. Actually, according to Gmail policies, any domain name like Kenya, any mailbox name Kenya separated by dots is the same as Kenya as one word. Kenya letter by letter separated by dot. So the first one, both of them, the dot is ignored. So the first one, it will be like Kenya at one word at gmail.com. So the first one and second one is the same. The third one is the same as well, as the mail addresses are case insensitive, and according to Gmail policies, excluding dots, the email addresses will be the same. So Kenya separated by dot ke.nya@gmail.com is the same as Kenya@gmail.com is the same as Kenya separated each letter separated by dot at gmail.com. Both the 3 email addresses are one, and Kenya@yahoo.com is another one. Kenya@yahoo.rw is the third one. So the correct answer here is 3. We have 3 unique email addresses here. So chapeau for our colleague who said that they are 3. Yes, Gmail addresses are usually ignored. Thank you very much for sharing this. Thank you, Maureen. So we have 3 email addresses here. This is the first question for today. So the second question, all of the quizzes for today are related to our topic. So the second quiz for today, what is the most popular daily used application to interact with the online world? Email applications, texting applications, attendance applications, social media applications, other specify. I am waiting for your answers. So you are the first thing I saw here, Kate said that social media application. Actually, thank you for this. But actually, during your office, you start your office by social media application? It is one point. Other points, other answers. But maybe I am a marketing guy, so my job is to do some social media activities. So it will be the most popular application. But try to think more what else could be there. Yeah, 1 second left. Done. Actually, the most popular application worldwide is the email applications. There are billions of emails sent and received per hour. There are a huge increase of the number of accounts of mailboxes per hour worldwide. I will share all the statistics by numbers after a while. So, third question for today, what is the most important project or initiatives at the stage of or at the agenda of the countries after COVID-19, for example, Kenya? Actually, after COVID-19, we are locked down inside our homes. We couldn't have the governmental services that are available online. Maybe some of these services are available, maybe others not available. Now, one of the goals of the governments at the moment, all the governments worldwide, including Kenya as well, to make all the services offered for citizens in order to be available online. So the most important project or initiative at the stage or at the agenda of the countries after COVID-19 is the digital transformation projects. Actually, I am sorry for that, I just saw that one of the texting application, that texting application is one of the most popular application worldwide. Yes, it is, but actually you need to remember that texting application currently depends on subscription using email addresses. For example, Microsoft Office. You need to have your email address recorded there in order to be activated for organization in order to use texting applications. Look, the small child that are in KG1 or at school, now they don't need to go to schools itself. They could go e-learning environment online. They need to subscribe for this e-learning environment using email addresses, but not using texting applications. Don't consider yourself as one who are targeting. You are not the primary target. The primary target is that the 50% of the worldwide population who suffer from using their own local languages to exist online. And you is the key in order to adopt the environment in order to accept such kind of diverse language to be existed online. That is why you are here for today. So here, one of the heroes for Africa, Nelson Mandela, said one of the quotes is, if you talk to a man in a language he understands, that goes to his head. If you talk to him in his language, that go to his heart. So the time you are going, for example, let's go for real example. Me as I am Arabic native speaker. So I could speak English. So the time I am going to ATM machine, I select which language I select, Arabic or English. Of course, I will go for Arabic. Look for politicians, look for the businessmen who are trying to make tweets at X or Facebook. They make these tweets in their own local language. The time you sense that it's sensitive or wanted to reach out to a large number of audiences, you select the proper language, the local languages. So maybe I am one of you from Kenya, and the official language is English. Do I need to have internationalized domain names? Do I need to have universal acceptance adopted for our environment? At glance, no. But actually, the correct answer is yes. I know there are many universities, for example, in Kenya. that have international students, Chinese, Arabic guys, Saudi Arabia guys, even American guys studying there. You have online e-visa system. How could I have visa for Kenya at the time I'm trying to subscribe for this e-visa using my Arabic email address and I am ignored or I am blocked from accessing the system? So it affects the tourism or the economic industry for the countries. That is why, as declared by my colleague Barak Otino, that for WSIS that held in Geneva and Tunisia, they declared and commit that languages that will be used for domain names or email addresses are very crucial for the diverse online identity. I will skip this, it's already covered by my colleague Barak, but I wanted to stress that the online content to history, before it was 75% English against 25% non-English. For the future, there is an expectation that it will be 75% non-English against 25% English. And for the future, more and more and more, you will find that more non-English against English. So here for multilingualism is considered a key to digital inclusion. And that's what is declared at WSIS Geneva Declaration in 2003, said by my colleague Barak. I will not go for this at the moment, but I will cover another point that more recently, Global Digital Impact asks to make digital technologies more accessible and affordable to everyone. How could we go for this? There are three main topics. The first one, all digital divides and deliver an inclusive digital economy. Building an inclusive, open, safe, and secure digital space. Strengthen international data governance and govern AI for humanity. Now, I wanted to send an official email. I will open one of the AI applications, ChatGPT, for example, or other application, and say that I wanted to have some details about Internet of Things from Google.com, but I will set in my own language, Arabic. So AI plays a crucial role for the increasing the demand for adopting IDNs and AI and even universal acceptance. And for today, I'm not talking about internationalized domain names or email address internationalization only, but I am talking also about the new generic top-level domain names. As said by Barak, that we have more than 1,200 new generic top-level domain names, including some of them are IDN generic top-level domain names. So we are not talking only about IDN or AI, but also for email address internationalization. My colleague Barak already covered the domain name system and how it goes and the evolution of the top-level domain name industry since before 2009 till the moment for the increasing number of new generic top-level domain names. And I think there are another round that will open recently for the new generic top-level domain that will open after a while for the new generic top-level domain names. I will not cover that, but I will have to comment here that there are total of 61 internationalized domain names, CCTLD, delegated for 42 countries and territories. Barak said, if you recall well, Barak said that there is an ISOC number 3166 that are responsible for handling the CCTLD codes for countries. How come to have 42 countries for 61 IDN CCTLD? Actually, there are countries like, for example, India have more than one official language. That is why it is it is 61, more than 61 is more than the number of countries. 61 against 42 countries. And this is also the IDN generic top level domain names. This one before the old fashion of domain names, we have, for example, www.cafe.com. Com is the top level domain name, generic one. Coffee is the second level domain name. www is the third level domain. So here for the top level domain names, which is stored in the root zone that is managed by IANA, it is before it is A to Z and the length up to 63 letters. And for the other level, also they are limited to 63 letters. But after a while, after this, we have some differences. We have IDN, we have top level domain names IDN, Unicode, and the other level are Unicode. So here we are not talking about using this Unicode or this local language like Arabic, like Amharic, like French inside the DNS zone file. Actually, DNS domain name system by default designed to work only for English. So we need to have algorithm or another workaround in order to make this DNS domain name system understand this type of Unicode domain names. How could we achieve this? This is another part of the world, important part of the world called another important community in this world called Internet Engineering Task Force, IETF, who is responsible for formulating standards and policies in order to how to make the technicality happens or in place. So they ask for algorithm in order to have this Unicode or this Arabic domain names, for example, in order to be translated to somehow to English letters. So the first thing they said that this Arabic letter, this French, is called Unicode. It will be considered or pronounced as U label, Unicode label. And this will be go into the input of the algorithm machine, for example, or algorithm software, and the output will be ASCII compatible encoding label or a label. ASCII compatible encoding label. The same for each part of the labels of the domain name. This is how domain name system understand local language or Unicode top level domain names. So why IDNs? Why do we need IDNs? China and Korea make a study about why we need to have IDNs. They have different aspects here. They said that using IDNs will help the customer to remember a domain name more easily. IDNs will help to better communicate and market web addresses verbally. IDNs are easier for local customers to use. IDNs will help better reach local customer base. These are the examples shared by my colleague Barak, and here's some statistic about why email addresses or email environment are the most popular applications that are used worldwide. How much emails do we use daily? There are more than 370 billion emails sent and received per day worldwide. More than 8.9 billion emails sent and received per hour worldwide. There are billions of emails accounts expected by 2025, 4.5 billion. Actually, if you took a look here about the daily email traffic or the worldwide email user, from is a cumulative result starting from 2021 till 2025, you'll find an increased number of emails traffic, an increased number of email user accounts that make you sure that it is important or it is the most popular application is the email environment. These are the examples of email address internationalization themes for different languages. Why email address internationalization? Actually, the email address internationalization keep my online identity through using my own local language to preserve my local cultural and traditional heritage. Like today, for example, our colleague Sulaiman Samuel, I saw that he wear the identity or the tradition wear of Kenyan. It's culture, it's traditional heritage, it's identity. If I saw Samuel in other part of the world, this man is Kenyan. IDNs make it easier to remember and to communicate with other online users. You have Arabic content, Arabic domain name, and send and receive email using Arabic email addresses. It will be a consistent environment. It is natural to use local languages you access to access your email for the people all around the world. Actually, I don't see, I could stop anytime to answer the question, but I couldn't see if you raised your hand or not. So if our colleagues from ISOC could guide me if there is a question or there is raise the hand on the floor, it will be appreciated. So if you want to check if your email server could handle email address internationalization correctly, you could go to uasg.tech website and go to the section for EI check. You enter your email address, just click submit. You will have a reply that your application, your mail server is supporting EI addresses or not. Your mail server is supporting addresses or not. Or, for example, one of the challenges that we are facing now, that if you want to subscribe to one of the newsletters that exists online and add your EI addresses, it will give you an error that please enter a valid email addresses. It means that the mail server who is responsible to handle this part of this web application, which is the mail server, is not EI enabled or couldn't handle email address internationalization correctly. And these ones are one of make you that I wanna use my local language email addresses, but I couldn't. How could I subscribe for the injection for COVID-19 injection by the Ministry of Health? How could I have updates from the government that related to my traffic violation? How could I be connected online and interact with each other according to my right using my own local languages? So what are the categories affected by universal acceptance? Domain names that may not work in application, like like web application, like desktop application, like iOS application, Android application. What this type of domain names? Actually, for the ASCII1, away from Unicode, the old traditional use of top-level domain name is com, net, org, edu, something like this. But actually, we have also generic top-level domain names that are 3 letters, like .sky. It may not work for this application. At the time, this sky is 3 letters, like .com or .net or .org. But actually, the developer who makes this application make a restriction that the domain name should end with specific limited number of top-level domain names. Static list, not a dynamic one. For example, for the new generic top-level domain names that are more than 3 letters, like .engineering, like .pharmacy, like .bank, like .istanbul, like .africa, .durban, .gberg. It couldn't be accepted as well. It will not work. The other kind is Unicode, Unicode domain name or IDN domain name. For internationalized email addresses also will not work in application, as email addresses have the part of the domain name. You couldn't have email addresses without the domain name. So the applications that couldn't consider domain names in this theme couldn't consider email addresses at same theme. That is why here for Unicode, mark as society.org. Society.org, I think it is, or society or society, I don't know. But I think it's French one that have non-English characters here. The other one, Unicode, Chinese mailbox at example.com. Other one, pure, or I don't know, it is Chinese or Japanese. And the other one is pure Arabic email address. Arabic somehow different. You used to read the email addresses or English from left to right, but for Arabic, you read it from right to left. How could the application that you as a developer will recognize that this domain name is Arabic, I should read it from right instead of left? What if your application is somehow dummy enough or ugly enough and couldn't understand it? What will happen? I say that before, that the mailbox for the English or for ASCII languages, you have the mailbox at the left, then the right side will be the domain name. If I read that from the right, the mailbox will be at the right, and then the domain name. So what if it is, for example, it is Caroline at example.ke. If I read it from right to left, it means that the mailbox is called ke.caroline, and the domain name is, I think it is Kenya or whatever I said. And from left to right, it will be, the mailbox will be Kenya, and the right side will be caroline.xyz. How come? So your application should be smart enough to recognize that this Arabic language or one of the languages for the Arabic script that are right to left context. So it could read the Arabic email addresses, mailbox, or domain name correctly. What is the difference between language or script? Actually, language is a part of the script. Let us have an example. We have Arabic script. Arabic script contain Arabic, my language, and for Egyptian, Urdu for Pakistani, Pashto for Afghan, Persian for Iranian, and other languages. So the script contain many languages. But the context for the script is one. So the Arabic script have one context, right to left. And the ASCII or Latin script is one context, left to right. You need to be clear about this. So the challenges of internationalized email addresses acceptance by website. USG and ICANN conducted a survey or some kind of consultation in order to have some details about what is going on for accepting such kind of email addresses, international email addresses. They found that email addresses acceptance rate in form fields on they take sample of 1,000 local websites and try to find how much of these 1,000 sample for different countries could fit or could address initialize email address correctly. You found that only for Japan it is less than 50. China, it is somehow big enough, 20%. And Russia and Thailand, Egypt, and Bahrain, something like actually we still need to work hard in order to have all the application, all internet devices, application system able to handle such kind of domain names and email addresses correctly. So this first part that are related to website. The second part is related to accepting as a mail server, as MTAs, as MUA, as MDA. We need to test if this email server could handle email addresses, it shows email addresses correctly. So we went to the root zone and collect all the top level domain names and we grab all the MX records. What is the MX record? Domain name system like a database, like a phone book that have domain name www.kenya.ke and this is IP address 1234. www.kenya.ke NMX, the mail server for Kenya.ke is mail.kenya.ke and the IP address for mail.kenya.ee in the record 1234. So the type of email addresses, the category of the email addresses recorded inside the phone book, which is the DNS zone file, is added under the identification called MX record, mail exchange record. So we grab all this MX record for all the top level domain names exists worldwide and make some statistics to see how much of this MX mail server could handle these initialized email addresses correctly. We still need to go for a lot of work in order to have these email servers adopted for universal acceptance or adopted to handle international email addresses. So they found that out of the 33 plus million email server tested in January of 2025, only 25 plus % show support of internationalized email addresses. As I said before, if you want to check your email server is able to handle AI or not, you could go to uasg.tech/AI-check. You could ask the engine of UASG.tech if your email server is enabled for international email addresses or not. Also, UASG.tech is not only to test your application, your mail server. There are a plenty of documents, plenty of reports, plenty of tools, plenty of documents that you could use to adopt universal acceptance, to adopt email address internationalization. Also, you could ask for support. You could look at issue to ask one of the expertise of universal acceptance to answer your question. So if there are any question, you could go to submit a ticket at UASG.tech website, or you could even check your email server is supporting AI or not, or asking for support from UASG in order to help you in order to make your environment to be universal acceptance ready. I shall stop here at the moment and see if there are any question I could answer or could handle before moving forward for the slides. Samuel, could you check if at your floor there are some question or not? Yeah, if you have any question, also you could raise your hand, and the time I see your hand or the ISOC team guide me that there is a hand, I will stop the floor and have your question and answer it. As I said, it's an interactive session. It's not a classroom session. So you have to ask, I am learning from you before you learning from me. So I will continue until I have any question from ISOC or from the team inside the chat or raising his hand. So for the worldwide internet user, we have more than 5 billion internet users worldwide, and 68% of this internet users sorry, I have something with my mic. Just a second. We have only for the 8 billion of the worldwide population, we have only 5.5 billion internet users worldwide. It means this 5.5 billion is around 68% is internet user. And the other internet user is away from the internet. One of the barriers that prevent this remaining percent or remaining number of internet users is the languages. What is universal acceptance? I already, my colleague Barak handled this, but to refresh your mind again, universal acceptance is that all domain names, all email addresses should be treated equally by all internet-enabled application devices and systems. All domain names, all email addresses should be accepted, validated, stored, processed, and displayed correctly by all internet-enabled application devices and systems. Achieving universal acceptance ensures that every person in this world has the ability to interact and navigate to the internet, use his own local language for domain name or email addresses. For the best of the alignment of interest, business, culture, language, and script. What is the goal and the impact of adopting universal acceptance? The goal that all valid domain names and email addresses work in all software applications. What is the impact? What is the return of achieving this goal? The first one, to promote consumer choice, you will have Arabic domain names, English domain names, English legacy top-level domain names like .com, .net, .org, all the new generic top-level domain like .pharmacy, .mercedes, .bank, .istanbul, .durban, .africa, and improve competitions. There are several actors here trying to promote their selling of top-level domain names, their selling of domain names, improve competition, and provide proper access to internet users according to their interest or their needs. Why does universal acceptance matter? Universal acceptance helps to support a diverse, multicultural, and multilingual internet. More trust and freedom of expression. Your right will be there to access the internet. Your right will be there to write articles based on ideas, to help others, encourage others, and enable greater competition for innovation and broader consumer choice opportunities. Business opportunities. Actually, one of the studies conducted by Universal Acceptance Steering Group related to what is the return of adopting universal acceptance from the business side. They found that 9.8 billion USD dollars in annual basis come from adopting universal acceptance. So if you are not going to adopt universal acceptance, you leave the money at the floor and keep going away. So how come to have 9.8 billion USD dollar? Came from two parts. The first part from the 50% of the worldwide population who wanna need to be connected online, from using IDNs, using their own local languages for domain names and email addresses, and the other part come from the people who wanted to use English language, or they wanted to use and keep the identity for the brand. I wanted to keep my identity as an African. I will go for Africa. I wanna keep my identity to be, for example, from Abu Dhabi, the identity of my city, Abu Dhabi, Istanbul, Durban, Djibouti. Of course, universal acceptance matter in assist government and policymaker in communicating with their citizens, as indicated in the previous survey results for China and Korea. As IDNs will help to reach out to a large customer base. But here it is not customer, it's your citizen, your local citizen. Next slide. Of course, all what I said before is related to a multilingual and inclusive internet, so I will not have more time in this world unless that I need to highlight that the majority of the world not speak English as the first language. Only more than one third of the worldwide population use Latin alphabet in English, while there are billions of people who prefer to read and write Arabic, Ethiopic, Chinese, Cyrillic, or other scripts. How to make your application to be universally accepted or to be universal acceptance ready. There are 5 verbs of universal acceptance or 5 criteria in order to make your application to be universally accepted. Who decides these 5 criteria or these 5 verbs? Apologies for that. There is a community initiative supported by ICANN called Universal Acceptance Steering Group. The main goal of this group to foster or to encourage all the stakeholders in order to use, adopt, modify their application to handle such kind of the new domain names or email addresses, whatever the language is. If you saw that the first logo that you see in all slides here is //***. Asterisk means anything. There are different stakeholders from private sector, public sector, government, other sector, academia, and other involved with the work of Universal Acceptance Steering Group that decides that in order to make all the application to able to handle such kind of domain names and email addresses, there are 5 criteria or 5 verbs that should be met in order to say that this application is universal acceptance ready. The first one is accept. It means that the user can input characters from their own local script into a text field, or not just a text field. Your application read this domain name or email address from Notepad or from Notepad Plus. So this application should able to grab the correct theme of the domain name or the email address from this Notepad or from the user entered inside the text field. Validate the software, accept the characters and recognize them as valid. Maybe validate that I am old-fashioned developer and make a restriction that in order to sign up, you need to have domain name or email address that end with .com, .net, .org. And the other new guy will use his English email address, but .sky or .pharmacy or .mercedes. It will be restricted here to sign up. Process, it means that the system performs operation with the characters. For example, Process means you need to extract feature from something. For example, my manager will call me by phone, Abdulmanam, get me all the tourist guys' email addresses who are exists in Egypt. So I will go and search database for all the email addresses that end by .cairo. Maybe my manager said that I need only the tourist guides that exist in Giza inside Egypt. So I will go to search all email addresses that end by .giza. The same for Nairobi. I need to have the list of the businessmen in Nairobi who are working for the steel. So I will search the database for all the businessmen who are for all businessmen email addresses that end by Nairobi. The fourth criteria for universal acceptance readiness is store. After you have the data from the user or the customer or the client, you need to store this data inside database or inside a file. This file, for example, if you are storing this data inside the file, this data should be stored in UTF-8 format, in Unicode format. Imagine that you write Arabic or Chinese or French word inside Notepad and try to save it. You will have an alert from Notepad that this text you are trying to saving inside Notepad, it contains Unicode letters. Would you like to save it in Unicode or not? If you say no, if you open the file again, you will see that you will see this word as question mark. If you store it in UTF-8, you will find it as it is, as you wrote it. You will find it. Lastly, the fifth verb or the fifth criteria for universal acceptance readiness is the display. What you wrote, what you saw, what should be displayed. How come to write Chinese domain name inside Notepad or inside the database, and when it is displayed, it will be displayed as question mark? How come? So all these 5 verbs should be met. I missed to say that here that for store verb, the fourth verb of universal acceptance readiness, you could store the data inside the database. Most, maybe 100, maybe all the database engines that exist currently, all of them support UTF-8. But actually, you need to consider that the driver between your application and the database may this driver not support UTF-8. At the time that your application and the database support UTF-8, so the user enters the data through your application correctly, and your application processed it correctly and stored in the database at question mark. How come? The database is support UTF-8, so you need to select the proper drivers for your database that support UTF-8. There are many work groups within Universal Acceptance Steering Group. And the main goal behind using all these work groups in order to the main goal behind the variety of work group within UASG, Universal Acceptance Steering Group, we have technical work group, email address centralization work group, we have measurement work group, we have coordination work group. What are the main goals of these groups? We need to organize outreach to raise awareness in universal acceptance issue. Like here for today, you are for Universal Acceptance Day, conducting detailed studies to identify technical gaps. We need to identify which APIs that used by email or used by the developers in order to encourage them to modify these APIs in order to be universally accepted and could handle such kind of domain name and email addresses. How to determine the solution to address technical gaps? How could we identify that postfix or dev code needs to be improved in order to handle such kind of domain names and email addresses? We need to develop and conduct technical trainings on the solution for supporting universal acceptance readiness. These are the actors who could help to achieve universal acceptance. We have technology enablers, technology developers, email software and software service providers, of course, and the government policymakers and academia. Recently, we have academia curriculum in order for university program to offer IT related universal acceptance issue to be among their studies, as it is important. For the government, we need to initiate to mandate universal acceptance as a requirement for all new software applications that will be in the premises of the government or work for the government services. And also update all the government services, the government modules in order to support universal acceptance. For email and email service provider, we need to select the proper email softwares and select the proper provider who provide such kind of email software who support universally accepted. Actually, to being universally accepted for email service provider, we have 3 categories. I will cover that after a while for email address initialization. And for technology developers, who are the organization and the individual developing the development tool for that are used for programming languages and frameworks. For technology enabler, we have to go for the standard, best practices, software programming, and the framework. You may be confused about technology enabler and developer. Developer are the one who are working with this hand. Technology enabler somehow same like developer, but actually have the decision making bit here. What is the role of the business here? As I said before, that if you left universal acceptance on the stage, you left a lot of money as an opportunity that we have 9.8 billion US dollar. You leave it at the floor and go away. So it's very important to go for universal acceptance. Actually, for sake of time, I'm trying to make consolidation of the important points in an easy way. So if you feel that I am keep going in fast mode, please stop me and say, please be calm, and ask question as you would like to. What is the role of the government? Actually, I am working for the government. Government, for example, need to have a campaign in order to raise awareness for all the affiliated organizations that work for the government in order to adopt universal acceptance, in order to achieve one of the goals of the digital transformation project, where we could reach out to a large base of citizens. We need, as a government, to have our hand to mandate UA as a special requirement for all the new software and for all the new updates for the current working software. We need to work with or cooperate with the CCLD manager country code to level domain name manager within our local context and governmental advisor committee delegates in order to strengthen the communications between us in order to see how could it go to foster the adoption of universal acceptance. Actually, CCTLDs are one of the key points to foster the progress or the promotion of universal acceptance locally. UR4.ke, we have our colleague, for example, Andrew and the other colleagues from Kinnick working with us for CCNSO Universal Acceptance Committee in order to study and see how it goes in order to have multilingual internet with universal acceptance feature that should be mandated for all of that. For what is the role of civil society? And we need to encourage your community to attend the local and regional UA related events. Now you could attend Universal Acceptance Day here in Kenya. I am, for example, before I were in Rwanda, and after a while I will go for Somalia for making a Universal Acceptance Day as well. We need to increase the awareness about universal acceptance. We need to make the audiences, make the future builder who are like you. How could they make the future for the next billion internet user to exist online? We need to prepare the environment to handle such kind of domain names and email addresses or the more diverse number of internet users. This is the curriculum I was talking about, that we need to have universal acceptance as one of the programs that should be studied by all the graduates and all the small students inside universities. I know that it will be maybe a future return of investment of universal acceptance, but you know that these students or these graduates are the future engineers who are shaping the future for the diverse number of internet users. For the technical community, the role of the technical community is that we need to carry out training educational activities and allow software developer, project manager to address the issues, universal acceptance issues through raising awareness about the 5 verbs of universal acceptance readiness. For what is the role of domain name registries and registrar? For example, registries have the registry software that handle all the requests come from the registrar or the registry itself. When someone tries to register a domain name, maybe one of the fields that are mandated is the email addresses. Maybe this one will be intentionalized email addresses. I will lose business as a registry or a registrar if my application couldn't handle such kind of email addresses. And of course, it is a large business if you have more domain names used under the top-level domain for .que by the international entities. Yeah, what is the role of the domain name holder or the domain holder or registrant? That he need to check with his service provider or the hosting that if application is universal acceptance ready. Sorry, is universal acceptance ready or not? He need to ask the dashboard admin of this hostigator or this hosting service hosting application to see that, to ask him to make their application to be universal acceptance ready. As me, for example, want to log for the dashboard or the management application using my Arabic email address, my Chinese email address, something like that. I think this is already covered by my colleague Barak for today, that related to UNESCO, WSIS, and ICANN. But I need only to highlight that UNESCO is not a new friend of ICANN, it's an old friend of ICANN that have one of the goals in common, that to increase the number of internet users who exist online according to their rights. Already covered this. Yeah, for the next round of applicant support program, I think it will take time for this point. So I wish to skip that, going for more detail about universal acceptance, email address internationalization, and making website ready. Yeah, I think for let's have a conclusion about the new generic top-level domain names. In order to to host a registry of the new generic top-level domain names, it's a lot of money that need to be paid. So there are one of the programs that done by ICANN in order to make support for registries financially or technically in order to encourage them to operate and use unique top-level domain names, which called applicant support program, that have I think currently I think we finish one of the phases. The second one, the next one will be after a while by ASP. Stay tuned about that. But what it was thinking about that, we are talking about IDN and AI and the new generic top-level domain names. Just a second. Yeah. For engaging with ICANN, there are two main programs that you could join the work or the activities for ICANN. There are fellowship and there is fellowship and there is next gen. Fellowship, I was a fellow. There are three meetings per year for ICANN, each one in different region. So you could fill once the fellowship submission open, you could apply for the fellowship. This fellowship will contain airfare tickets, round trip, hotel, and per diem in order to handle your expenses there. And of course, you should fill the application for the meeting, not in just 2 minutes or just one day. You have, for example, me, at the first time I opened the application, I fill it in 1 hour, I rejected. Second time, one of my colleagues advised me that you have every day during the open period, open the application and write some words from your heart. You should be passionate about what you said for this application. ICANN need to be aware enough that you are willing to help. You are willing to raise awareness when you come back to your country. ICANN need to know that you are willing to help to raise the word ICANN within your own local community. ICANN should be aware that you are willing to help. For example, you are passionate about universal acceptance, you have some activities about universal acceptance, you are willing to conduct Universal Acceptance Day, you are willing to join TCSO, join other communities within ICANN. This is fellowship. This is not for students, not for graduates, this is for the normal working engineer. But for students or just graduates, they need to have an official letter from their university that they are still studying at this university and could apply for next gen. Or I can be preparing the future leaders for the internet. So it is easy. You have to go to icann.org, subscribe for the mailing list. You will receive an announcement that the submission round open for ICANN, for example, for ICANN 84, for example. I don't know, I couldn't remember if it's open yet or not. And the code accept your application to be submitted in order to apply for fellowship or for next gen. It's very important to be considered. And I am sure that my colleague from ISOC will guide you better than me for fellowship and the next gen. But of course, if you want to need any help, I am in charge of you all the time. So get involved with the work of universal acceptance. If you wanna need to ask about anything, you could email info@uag.tech or uaprogram@icann.org. As I said, you could check if your email server is AI ready or not. You could go to uag.tech AI check and check that. You could submit a ticket if you have a problem with adopting universal acceptance or adopting email address internationalization. You could submit a ticket, and one of the expertise of UAG will guide you in order to overcome it. We have many channels that could be used to to share information and to interact with the future world. We have LinkedIn, Facebook, we have X instead of Twitter at the moment. We have e-learning environment, some training videos that explanation videos that was displayed while in the break before. Yeah, at this moment, I could go for the next slide, for the next presentation for today, or I need to wait somewhere. What shall I do now?
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
I couldn't hear you.
Okay. Could we take a question?
I am sorry, I have an echo. I need to go for the next presentation, or we shall break.
Now?
I can hear you now.
I hope you can hear me now.
Yes.
Probably we can take one question, then we break for lunch because it's almost lunch time.
Okay.
Maybe from the physical audience, do we have a question? Anyone, you can lift your hand so that I can share your question, or maybe you can come here and ask your question. Anyone? Okay, it seems the audience here looks to be okay. Probably those of us who are joining online, do we have anybody with any question so that we can pick your question? Anyone? Seeing no question from the online audience and from the physical audience, I think we can take a break.
So when shall we need to be back somewhere?
Okay, so maybe Caro. From my consultation, we take a 30 minutes break. Be back here at 1:30. I hope now I can. Okay. I hope now it's okay.
Yes, I can hear you well. So we need to back after 30 minutes or 1 hour?
Okay, I think we had a problem with our sound, but I think it's now okay. So we were saying that we will have a break for 30 minutes. So we'll be back at 1:30 so that the physical audience can be able to have enough time to take lunch. And also for those of us who are joining online, you can have time to take lunch because right now it's lunch hour. And then we'll be back exactly at 1:30. Exactly at 1:30, we will be here. So those of us who are online, don't disconnect. Kindly remain connected. We will keep you engaged. We'll have some videos playing on as we take our lunch. I think that will be okay. Yes, I think maybe all of us, including those of us who are online, we will do a photo. So maybe for those of us who are online, maybe I will just capture maybe a photo of you. If maybe you have no problem in putting your video on, well and good. Then for those of us who are joining here physically, we will come to where I am, and then we'll do a group photo. Probably we'll put our video off here when we'll be doing a group photo for those of us who are joining physically. So I can see some of us who are joining online, they are putting their video on. So if you have no problem, you can kindly put your video on so that we take a group photo. I will tell you when I am taking it. Just give me a minute. Oh, it's okay. I think I can have those of us who are able to put their video on, those of us who are online, because we'll have two different photos. So if you are able, well and good. I know we had not informed you on time, so I'm taking it. Just give me a second. I'm using different methods. I think help me.
You can take a new print screen. To capture.
So we are taking maybe a photo. I'm just being assisted. Okay, so that's okay. I think we are good to go for those of us who are here online. Okay, I've captured enough. So I think that's okay. We can release you for a break. So I will request those of us who are here physically, they come behind me so that we can do. Okay. So we can break for lunch, those of us who are online.